We're bringing to you this episode from the land that Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere was born, but also a place that Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere was buried. We're here for the second edition of Twenzetu Butiama Pilgrimage Safari that has brought together people from different parts of Africa to honor the legacy left by Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere 26 years later. But apart from that, we had the opportunity to sit down and have a one-on-one talk with Madaraka Nyerere, one of the sons of Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere. After traveling for more than 1,400 kilometers from Dar es Salaam to Butiama, what a privilege to be received by Madaraka Nyerere. Madaraka is one of the sons of the late Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere. For him, Mwalimu was not only the father of the nation, but also his father. A role that carried both simplicity and profound responsibility. Growing up, he witnessed firsthand Mwalimu's unwavering dedication to nurturing a young nation, guiding its growth into the Tanzania we know today. Mr. Madaraka, we are truly humbled to have you on this episode. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. You're most welcome here.
Thank you so much. Indeed, you have received us so well.
Yes.
Well, I want to start by hearing this from you. Most of us know Mwalimu Nyerere as a true Pan-Africanist, the hero of the nation, the master behind the liberation of Tanzania and the liberation of other African countries. But to you, Mwalimu Nyerere was a father. Can you tell us, how do you remember Mwalimu Nyerere?
I remember Mwalimu, as you mentioned, there are so many labels that you can attach to Mwalimu Nyerere relating to what he did as part of his career, political career. But as a father, as a parent, we recall having an individual, I'll say an individual, who made sure that whatever he did in his public life was not imposed on his family or on his children. So when we speak of Mwalimu, we speak of a parent who would come back home and totally switch from his public role to a family role. And so that's how practically we remember him. But not just that, he also was not someone who would, I'm sure many parents would like to ensure that their children or their offspring follow in the parents' footsteps. But he was a parent who did not try to influence what we eventually did in our lives. And then I recall he was someone who would ask a very simple question: what do you want to do? And then whatever you responded, he would say, okay, that's fine with me, and never comment or never influence whatever we wanted to do. So he's an individual who respected everyone, regardless of your age, regardless of your status, regardless of your position in society, and respected the opinions of all, including us.
Wow, including the children.
Including the children. Yeah.
Well, that is such a very remarkable and a very memorable experience. But can you tell us if there was one particular memory that you have of Mwalimu as your dad that you wouldn't forget about it?
There are many I can mention. I'll mention one when he had already stepped down as president, and he was, I think at that time he was still chair of the South Commission, also chairman of Chama cha Mapinduzi, CCM. But he was also, as you know, he was someone who not only preached or not only promoted agricultural policies during his term in office, but also practiced agriculture. So I recall we would come back to Butiama for our annual holidays, and we would also accompany him to the farm, to engage in farming. So I recall after he stepped down, he was, one of his tractors had broken down. I, at that time, I had a small office in Dar es Salaam, a small company, and I used to do some trading. So I had some income, but not much. No, I wasn't a rich person. So he said, he gave me a call. No, he didn't call me. He sent someone, one of his aides, to me. And this gentleman said, Mwalimu, one of his tractors has broken down, so he's asking you to buy some spare parts for his tractor. So I did. I did. I don't know how much money I spent. I think it was around 300,000 shillings then. But I think it's a lot of money now.
Yeah.
So I recall that this man was president of this country, but he's humble enough, because I know he could have asked other people for that money. But he was humble enough to ask me to pay for those spares. So I remember him as an individual who had great humility and great respect for everyone.
Yes. Indeed. That is a very touchy experience that you have shared. But how do you feel to be called a son of Mwalimu Nyerere?
You might be surprised. I really don't feel that I am any different from other people. Although if I tell you that, you might not believe me. Because this is how we were raised to be. Not to feel special in any way. We went to the same schools as everyone else went to. Of course, at that time, the standards of education were much better than now. So we attended government schools, and we didn't live a life of privilege. We grew up I feel like we grew up just like everyone else grew up, and we didn't have any special treatment. Yeah. So we felt like we were Tanzanians first, and I think we were just Tanzanians, not children of Mwalimu Nyerere. But Tanzanians. That's right.
Yes, with what you were explaining, what is it that was in Mwalimu that made him want his children to just live a simple life? He was a simple person, a simple leader, a person who would really, if you look at him, you wouldn't feel like, this is the president, he's up there. What is it that was in Mwalimu that made him so different, even from other leaders in the current generation?
I think it's really difficult to say, because even among his fellow leaders, of course, you'll find a lot of difference, even among his fellow leaders. So I would ask the same question. How come someone growing up in those years that he was growing up and becoming a mature person had this vision of equality among people, whereas other leaders who grew up during the same period also came up with different views on life, on politics, on how to steer their countries towards development. So I think I really have no idea. But I argued once that since he grew up in a household which had, his father had 22 wives.
Chief Nyerere
Burito had 22 wives. And so there were many children growing up in that household. And so I have this theory that because he grew up in an environment which had so many other siblings and relatives and aunts and uncles, perhaps that created in him a sense that that the community is much more important than the individual. And if you have that as a foundation, then the only way you can think of how to lead your people is to have that simplicity, because not everyone has the opportunity to have the wealth or the opportunities that are available within a country.
And with that, we're learning that family plays a very important role with how the child becomes in the future.
Yes, yes, indeed. He was an individual, and not just the immediate family. He was an individual who also, as I said, he grew up in a household which had his father had many wives, and so he placed a lot of emphasis or a lot of importance in the not just the immediate family, but in the extended family. And that's something that we have also adopted. Yes.
Thank you so much, Madaraka, for that explanation. Yes. Let's talk about something else. We know that Mwalimu, the founding father of the nation, Tanzania, was doing a lot of things in that time. He had so many political responsibilities. Yes. He had so many other responsibilities, liberating other countries and more, having the philosophies and everything. How was he able to manage his time between taking care of the family? You're saying that he was a father who would ask you, what do you want to do whatever you want to do. He was there. He looked like he was there in the family. But how was he able to manage now these big responsibilities for the nation and his family?
Well, we have to give credit to Maria, my mother, because she's the one who spent most of the time with us, the children. But not just her. As I said, Mwalimu was an individual who placed a lot of respect within the extended family. So we had uncles, aunts, who all, in some way or another, helped to step into that responsibility of parenting that he alone could not manage, because he was busy with other national and other international issues, yes, or responsibilities.
Responsibilities, indeed.
Yes.
And when Mwalimu was doing his liberation works and everything, yes, were your children able to witness the things that he was doing, maybe at home?
The only time that you could say that he involved us in what he was doing is once a while he would invite some of his colleagues, invite them home. All the official business was done at State House, but once a while he would invite one of the leaders to Msasani, and then he would call us and then introduce us. Oh, this is Madaraka, this is Makongoro, this is Anna, this is so-and-so. That's all. So we had that privilege of meeting very few of these individuals, including President Kenneth Kaunda. I don't remember the others, but very, very few of these individuals.
But why do you think Mwalimu was doing that? Because he wanted to let you children pursue the dreams, the career path that you want, and not to involve you in what he was doing? Why?
You know, I have no idea. I think you can say that he did not want to make that his role in leadership, his public role, something that should be shared with his family or with his children. In fact, I think what he did was he didn't want to influence. I mentioned that already. Not to influence our choices in public life, but not also to put us in the public space so that we are seen to be special than other Tanzanians. I think that's why he kept us separate from what he was doing.
This year's Commonwealth conference, I think, has been very valuable, possibly more valuable than any other conference in this sense. The Commonwealth has changed physically. That is, the composition of the Commonwealth has changed. It used to be the former countries, which used to be the white countries. And then the colonial countries merged, starting with India. So that, I say, physically the Commonwealth changed. And this physical change is accepted because we sit around the table. All of us sit around the table. A spiritual change has not yet been accepted. It's not been accepted by the former members, certainly by some of the former members, of the older members of the Commonwealth, that this is a new Commonwealth. And I think this particular conference, more than any other conference, has shown the need for a spiritual change in the Commonwealth. And this is a good thing. Very brief.
Mwalimu, Nyerere had a vision of using Kiswahili language as the language that unites the entire African continent. And currently, we know that the African Union has recognized Kiswahili language as the continental language. How do you feel this dream that the founding father of the nation had has come to reality? You as a son, how do you feel? And if Mwalimu was alive, how would he feel?
I think this is a very significant step, and I'm certain that the fact that the AU has adopted Kiswahili as an official language is something that he would be extremely proud of, for two reasons. No, maybe let me speak for one reason. for the fact that you know, Kiswahili now is spoken by at least 200 million people. So it's really significant, I think, that the AU adopted an African language. In addition to those languages, we adopted English, Portuguese, I don't remember the other official language, French, foreign languages, really, although these are the languages that we use at the AU. So I think it's really significant that the AU adopted an African language, and you know that he was one of the leading supporters who created, under his administration, created institutions to promote Kiswahili as a language. And so I think he would have said that perhaps the work that he tried to accomplish at a national level now is going beyond Tanzania's borders, and other people now are adopting Kiswahili as an official language. So I think it's really significant.
Thank you so much for that explanation. Yeah. Let's talk about something else.
Yes.
Here in Butiama currently, there are people from different parts of Africa that have come for the Transit to Butiama pilgrimage safari. And a part of this safari has involved people coming to pray, so that to make Mwalimu Nyerere to be recognized as a saint in the future. How does this make you feel that your father, he was not a church personnel, like he was not a church servant, but people are seeing his contribution to Africa, to Tanzania, and want him to be recognized as a saint in the future? How does this make you, as one of his children, feel?
I think not just as one of his children, but as Tanzanian, I think it is a recognition, although it's religious, and I think he might have objected if he could speak, because you know it's based on religion. But then it's a recognition. It's a recognition, even with those religious aspects, a recognition that he lived a life that is worthy of emulating. And when we are speaking about emulating his life, it's not strictly religious. It's also, as the ambassador spoke, the High Commissioner of Uganda spoke in church this morning, it's about his leadership. Not strictly a question of religion, but his leadership and how he tried to raise the welfare of an entire nation, to make everyone resources of this country. So it's something which I think everyone should be proud of.
Indeed, everyone should be proud
Yes.
of that.
Yes.
You spoke something about his contribution is something that we should all emulate,
Yes.
what he did.
Yes.
And I'm curious, as a person that when Mwalimu Nyerere died, I wasn't born.
Yes.
And I know that many other young people
Yes.
might not be knowing a lot about Mwalimu, but I've read a little bit
Yes.
that Mwalimu, during his leadership, he trusted young people so much.
Yes.
More majority of the members of the cabinet, of the ministers in
Yes.
that time, they were young people. Most of the time he spoke about believing and trusting in the power of young people. So what legacy do you think Mwalimu Nyerere had left for the young people? What is it that we are supposed to learn from Mwalimu Nyerere?
I could pick something which is within some of the policies that he had, in which he says, for example, in Education for Self-Reliance, he says the responsibility of the state is to provide an education to young people so that they could, in the future, take over the leadership responsibilities of this country. So I think that's basically what he was trying to do, that to ensure that the youth of this country have a good education, skills, and experience, which will allow them to assume the responsibilities of leading future generations to take over responsibility. So in that regard, I think what I can add to that is that the youth, rather than feeling that they are not part of this process, should rethink their position in society and assume the responsibility to realize that within 10, 15 years I'll be old and I won't have the strength to ride my bicycle from Dar es Salaam to Butiama, as I've done a few times. So it's the responsibility of the youth to make sure that they are ready to take over from this current generation of leaders.
And where should they start?
Well, I think education is key. You know, Mwalimu was passionate about education, so education is key. Young people should educate themselves as much as possible, because it's only through education that you can challenge whatever narratives are brought to us from outside. Without that education, then you don't have a basis on which to challenge some of the policies that are imposed on developing countries. And so I think education is key. Mm-hmm. Educate themselves as much as possible so that they are equals in deciding what is best for the future of this country and for their own future.
Mm-hmm. You spoke about education.
Yes.
And I was thinking that Mwalimu Nyerere was a person who loved reading and
Yes.
loved writing.
Yes.
And he started writing at a very young age.
Yes.
When he was still a student.
Yes.
I remember back in Makerere,
Yes.
when he was still a student,
Yes.
he wrote about women. Freedom. Yes. So majority of the young people, not all, do not have the reading culture.
Yes.
Do not embrace that reading culture.
Yes.
What message do you have to the young people now?
I'm glad you asked that question because, as you know, we have the background of his library here, which has more than 8,000 books. So reading is part of the education process, educating ourselves. I think it's really important that we develop, the young people especially, develop that culture of reading all the time, because most of the knowledge, you know, is in books, in publications. And there are very few people who come up with new theories on anything, on any particular subject. But most of the knowledge is in books, and so we really have to cultivate this habit of reading all the time.
You explained, you mentioned that you rode a bike from Dar es Salaam to Musoma. That is almost 1,200 kilometers, right? How was that possible?
1,400. It's, you know, it's something I've done, I said a few times, no, just once, I did it once. I had a lecturer from Edinburgh University who was here many years ago, and he was here to conduct research on Mwalimu Nyerere, and eventually he published a biography on Mwalimu Nyerere. It's called Nyerere, the Early Years. So while he was here, he said that one of his friends was in Arusha and had asked to come to Butiama to rest for a while. Because this friend of his had rode a bicycle from Scotland, then crossed over to Europe and rode all the way to Turkey, and then took a flight to Nairobi, and then flew, and then rode from Nairobi to Arusha, and was on his way to South Africa by bicycle. Oh. So he needed some time to rest. I said, yeah, please ask him to come to visit us. So he was here for a week. And then, so as he was preparing to go back to Arusha, where he had left his bicycle, to continue with his journey to Johannesburg, I suggested to him that I would accompany him. If he went to Arusha and brought his bicycle here to Butiama, I would accompany him through, I wasn't sure how long I could ride. So I said, for as long as I can. So he brought his bicycle here, and we rode, I think for 17 days. We first rode to Bunda, and then went to Kerewe, and then crossed over to Mwanza, and then rode all the way to Dodoma in 17 days. So after that, I left him, and I returned to Butiama. So I began to take an interest in riding long distances, and it's something which I've been doing for a few years now during my annual holidays. So this ride from Dar es Salaam, I think I did that maybe 5 years ago, and I rode with someone from Arusha, rode with him from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma. Then then I was alone from Dodoma to Butiama, and I was riding an average of maybe 70 kilometers a day, which is really nothing for those endurance cyclists. But I managed in 21 days. Yeah, so I have that interest.
Okay.
And I do that every year when I have time. I ride long distances. Yeah, I'm hoping my next ride will be from Lake Nyasa all the way back to Butiama.
Okay, all the best with that.
You yourself are seeking a peaceful way to get independence for all African countries, but do you feel that this is the approach of other African leaders?
I'm telling you, my friend, our biggest concern is the knowledge that our revolution on the African continent, this is not merely Tanganyika where a peaceful revolution has taken place. Our concern is our revolution from colonialism to independence throughout Africa has been a peaceful one. And we really, quite frankly, would like to complete this peacefully. We have this problem. I say we had Algeria, we had Congo, which is completely separate case. And frankly, we want this revolution in Africa to be a peaceful revolution. It's not merely Julius Nyerere who wants it. It's really the African leaders who want to die for the sake of dying.
You wanted to know how I felt as the son of Mwalimu Nyerere. Yes. And I told you that I really feel, I don't feel any different from any other Tanzanian. But then it's different when you travel outside travel outside the country. So I have this experience where President Museveni visited Butiama when President Kikwete was still president. So one of the people who accompanied President Museveni was his Inspector General of Police. When he saw Mwalimu's mausoleum, he said, "Oh, this is really interesting. I'd like to do this also for my father." So he said, "When I'm ready, I'll invite you to come to visit me in my village." I don't remember where the village is. I don't remember the name of the village. Anyway, in about 2 years, I received a call from one of his assistants, and he said, "Oh, Afande IGP is inviting you to come to his village. He's prepared the mausoleum for his father, and he wants you to be there by..." It was very short notice. So I said, you know, if I have to travel from Butiama, take a flight to Dar es Salaam, and then take another flight to Entebbe, I don't think I'll make it. So I suggested, why don't you, is it possible for you to to pick me up by car at the border in Kagera, in Mutukula? He said, yes, that's possible. So I took a bus from here to Mwanza, then got on the ship MV Victoria to Bukoba, and then at Bukoba I got on a daladala to the border, and then I waited for my hosts. Mm-hmm. So they showed up. It was one police officer with a driver and a car. So I got in the car and we drove about 2 hours. We reached a particular town, and he said, you know, this car has some issues, so we'll find another car for you. So we had lunch there, and when we finished having lunch, we got out to go into the other car, and they had this other car, but they also had, you see these police Land Cruisers, the open...
Escort.
Yeah, those Land Cruisers. So it was that car and the police escort, which had 4 heavily armed paramilitary policemen with their commanding officer and a driver. So 6 individuals, and the 7th one with me in the other car. So we drove off after lunch, and I think we reached the village of the IGP in the evening. So I was with these people, with my escort, for about 4 or 5 days. On the day that they took me back to the border, it was raining throughout the day. And so as we stopped somewhere for lunch, I suggested to the individual who was in the car, I said, listen, I climb Mount Kilimanjaro once in a while, and it's really dangerous for someone who's exposed to rainfall and wind for a long time. It's really dangerous. It's unhealthy. Yeah. It's dangerous, in fact. So I said, why don't you just release them? He said, no way. I won't do that. What do you think the IGP will tell me? So I said, okay. So we went on, and then we reached the border, I think sometime in the afternoon, at 3 in the afternoon. And so I got off and I said, oh, thank you so much for your hospitality. I hope to see you again. And they told me, no, we can't leave until we see who's receiving you. I said, no, don't worry. This gentleman says he's delayed for a while, but he'll show up. Don't worry. I said, no, we'll wait. Anyway, the argument went for a long time, and in fact, after a while they said okay, and they left. So we parted ways. I crossed the border, got into a daladala, went to Bukoba, stayed overnight, took my trip on MV Victoria, and then I came back to Butiama. So my point is this: there's so much difference between how Mwalimu is seen outside to how we know him in Tanzania. And so, although I was treated to that VIP treatment, it's not something that I would say I would like to have. I feel very comfortable in how I live in Tanzania, and I accept that Mwalimu has such a great name elsewhere.
The principle of Ujamaa socialism, and you have acknowledged that it was a miserable failure. What lessons in retrospect do you draw from that and the kind of economies that African countries might more profitably pursue?
Where did you get the idea that I thought Ujamaa was a miserable failure?
Well, I've read that you said socialism was a failure. The country economically was in shambles at the end of the experiment.
A bunch of countries were in economic shambles at the end of the 70s. They were not socialist. Now, today, it needs so much courage to talk about socialism. Therefore, perhaps we should change the phraseology. But you have to take in the values of socialism which we were trying to build in Tanzania, in any society.
And those values are what?
And those values are values of justice, a respect for human beings, development which is people-centered, development where you care about people. You can say, leave the development of a country to something called the market, which has no heart at all. Since capitalism is completely ruthless, who is going to help the poor?
Mr. Madaraka, let's talk about something else. Do you think Mwalimu Nyerere, the liberator of Tanzania, the liberator of other African nations in the southern area of Africa, do you think he had foreseen that in the future there would be a need for economic diplomacy, economic liberation? Because at that time they fought for the independence of African countries. But did he see that there would be a need for economic liberation in the future? Did he see that maybe neocolonialism might come and African countries might be dominated in another form to exploit the economic resources, but the countries might be free politically? Do you think that Mwalimu Nyerere had seen this vision?
That year, I'm not sure when, but the year that, in 1963, the Organization of African Unity created the Liberation Committee, and its purpose was to oversee the total liberation of the African continent with support from the member governments. So that committee was dissolved after South Africa obtained democratic rule. And the meeting to disband the committee was held in Arusha. So in that meeting, Mwalimu said, we had a liberation committee. I think now it's high time we have, I don't remember the exact wording that he had, but an economic liberation committee or something of that sort. So I think he realized, or envisioned or realized at some point during his public life that eventually the African countries which were independent had to concentrate on economic liberation. So I think what is being seen now in, you mentioned Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, I think they are really implementing exactly what he had in mind. And they seem to be, in my opinion, they seem to be a step ahead of many other African countries which really might want to learn from them. Mm-hmm. Because really without economic independence, it's you don't have the independence to decide what type of development that you can create for your people. So I think most African countries can learn from these young leaders from from West Africa.
I'm saying some of the problems we are now handling in Africa, some of the mess we're trying to clean up in the continent, we have inherited. The mess of the borders we have inherited.
The colonial powers drew the borders.
Yes. The colonial powers and some not colonial powers in Africa have supported regimes which are very corrupt on that continent. I think now they should stop backing up these corrupt regimes and let Africans, in their own way, try and establish regimes which can care about people. Some of the governments of the West, and including the United States, has really been very bad on our continent. They have used the Cold War and all sorts of things to back up a bunch of corrupt leaders on our continent. I think they should stop now and let the people of Africa sort out their own future.
Does that include the leader of Zaire?
Well, I didn't say so.
Many people say so.
Mr. Madaraka, thank you so much for all the explanation that you have provided and for your time, because now we're remembering the 26 years since Mwalimu had left. And indeed, you have opened the eyes of many on Mwalimu Nyerere as a son.
Thank you.
To the founding father of our country.
Thank
you so much. Dear TBC1 viewers, today we were with Madaraka Nyerere, the son of Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, and indeed I think you have learned quite a lot from him regarding how he remembers our father of the nation. Don't miss our next episode of Focus on This Week. I am Caroline Maleo. Until next time, bye-bye.
Hapa ni Arusha, mtazamaji wa TBC1, na Arusha unapozungumza ni jiji la utalii ambalo lina umuhimu mkubwa sana kwa uchumi wa Tanzania. Mathalan, takwimu za Tanzania Tourism Board, bodi ya utalii Tanzania, zinasema kwamba hadi kufikia mwaka 2025 nchi yetu inapaswa kuwa na idadi ya watalii milioni 5 wanaoingia nchini, na jiji la Arusha ni mojawapo ya maeneo muhimu yanayotegemewa kwa sekta ya utalii. Kampuni mbalimbali ziko hapa, lakini sisi kilichotuleta jijini Arusha ni kuona namna ambavyo jiji hili linadumisha amani na usalama, hususan wakati huu ambao nchi inakwenda kwenye uchaguzi mkuu na wawekezaji na wadau wengine wa maendeleo wakitazamia amani uwe msingi mkuu wa kuwekeza katika nchi yetu ya Tanzania. Oktoba 29 wa Tanzania watapiga kura, lakini je, hali ya usalama hapa mkoani Arusha ikoje? Basi mimi sina mengi, atakayezungumza hayo si mwingine ni kamishna msaidizi mwandamizi wa polisi Justin Masejo. Tuzungumze naye kwa undani kuhusiana na namna ambavyo jeshi la polisi limejipanga kuimarisha amani na usalama wakati na hata baada ya uchaguzi mkuu, hususan kwa kuangazia umuhimu wa jiji la Arusha kwa shughuli za utalii na uchumi wa Tanzania. Kamanda Justin Masejo, nafurahi sana kuungana nawe na pia watazamaji wetu wa TBC1 wanaokutazama kwa sasa. Habari wakati huu na habari za hapa Arusha?
Salama kabisa. Tunakaribisha sana Arusha, na kama ulivyosema jiji la kitalii, hapa kuna vionjo tofauti. Kwa hiyo karibuni sana Arusha. Arusha.
Asante sana. Wengi wamezungumza kuhusiana na masuala ya amani, taasisi za dini zinazungumza, viongozi. Nyinyi jeshi la polisi ndio mmepewa dhamana kwa mujibu wa sheria na taratibu kuhakikisha wananchi wa Tanzania na specifically kwa mkoa wa Arusha, wananchi wa mkoa wa Arusha amani na usalama wao unadumishwa. Hali ya usalama ikoje kwa mkoa wa Arusha?
Kwa ujumla hali ya usalama kwa mkoa wa Arusha ni salama kabisa kama unavyoiona, na watu waendelea kufanya shughuli zao. Hapa Arusha zinafanyika shughuli mbalimbali kama ulivyosema za utalii, lakini pia kuna vilimo mbalimbali sana vinavyofanyika hapa mkoa wa Arusha. Kwa hiyo kwa ujumla hali ya usalama ni salama sana.
Kuna dhana ambayo tulikuwa tunaisikia miaka ya nyuma hapo ya ulinzi shirikishi. Lakini pia kuna dhana ya polisi jamii. Haya ni maeneo ambayo jeshi la polisi mkoa wa Arusha mnatendeaje kazi kuhakikisha kwamba ukaribu wenu na wananchi unaimarishwa na mnaweza kutekeleza majukumu yenu kwa ufanisi zaidi?
Katika swala hilo ni kwamba ni kweli kabisa tunashirikisha jamii sana, kwa sababu katika mkoa wa Arusha katika kata zangu zote 160 kuna askari wetu wako pale, kwa maana tunaita wakaguzi wa kata. Kwa hiyo imetusaidia sana, manake tumeweza kufikia na kusikia kero mbalimbali, na hasa kama kipindi hiki cha uchaguzi, manake imetusaidia sana kama dawati la kutoa elimu pia kwa vijana pamoja na makundi mbalimbali yaliyoko katika kata hizo. Ndio.
Sawa. Na mmewafikia kwa kiwango gani hadi hivi sasa tangu kampeni zimeanza tarehe 28 mwezi wa Agosti?
Tumewafikia kwa ukubwa sana, kwa sababu tukiangalia, kwa sababu kampeni tumeshaanza. Tulianza kabla ya uchaguzi kutoa hizo elimu kabla ya kampeni, lakini katika michakato yote ya vyama wakati wanateua wagombea wao tulishiriki vizuri sana nako. Ndio maana katika mkoa wa Arusha hatukusikia rabsha yoyote, lakini pia tulianza kuandaa watu wetu pia kuweza kujua kwamba namna gani ya kushiriki, hususan vijana, kwa sababu kuna wengine ndio wanaingia kwa mara ya kwanza katika uchaguzi huu wa mwaka 2025.